Yuna stepped off the transport ship and took her first breath of recycled station air. It smelled like metal and something sweet she could not name. Station 12 was enormous. The ceiling rose so high above her that she could barely see it. Thousands of beings walked through the arrival hall. Most of them were not human. She had trained for this. She had studied the species guides. She had memorized the proper greetings. But nothing prepared her for actually standing here, surrounded by creatures from dozens of different worlds. A tall being with blue feathers and thin bones walked past her. It glanced at Yuna, and its eyes went wide. It quickly looked away and walked faster. Strange, Yuna thought. Maybe it was in a hurry. She found her way to the engineering department on level 47. The corridors were wide enough for species of all sizes. Small, lizard-like creatures ran along the walls. Massive stone-skinned beings moved slowly through the center. Everyone seemed to step aside when Yuna approached. She thought it was because she was new. Newcomers always stood out. Her supervisor was a Vithani named Kellis. The Vithani were bird-like creatures with hollow bones and delicate frames. Kellis stood about the same height as Yuna, but weighed perhaps a third as much. His feathers were gray with age, and his voice was soft and careful. "You are the human engineer," Kellis said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. Yuna, I am very happy to be here." Kellis nodded slowly. His eyes never quite met hers. "Your workspace is in Section 9. Your tools have been prepared. Please, be careful with the equipment." Yuna smiled. "Of course. I am always careful." Something flickered across Kellis's face. Fear? No, that could not be right. Why would he be afraid of her? She found her workspace and began her first day. The work was simple enough. Station 12 had old systems that needed constant repair. Pipes leaked, circuits failed, pressure valves jammed. Yuna loved this kind of work. There was something satisfying about fixing broken things. During her lunch break, she sat alone in the cafeteria. The tables around her were empty, even though the room was crowded. Beings squeezed together at distant tables rather than sit near her. A voice came from behind her. "First week is always the hardest." Yuna turned. A human man stood there with a food tray. He was tall and broad, with kind eyes and a warm smile. He looked about 35 years old. "I am Do-Wan," he said, sitting down across from her. "Cargo department. Been here 2 years now." "Yuna, engineering." "I know. News travels fast here, especially when a new human arrives." Yuna looked around at the empty tables. "Why does everyone avoid us?" Do-Wan laughed. It was a big, open laugh. "They are not used to us yet. Humans only joined the Confederation 15 years ago. To them, we are still the strange new species. But they seem scared." Do-Wan's smile faded a little. "Some of them are. I do not fully understand why. But give them time. Show them you are friendly. It gets better." Yuna wanted to believe him. The weeks passed. Yuna worked hard. She fixed pipes and rewired circuits and replaced broken parts. She was good at her job. But no matter how hard she tried, her co-workers kept their distance. One day, she was called to fix a pressure valve in Section 12. The valve had jammed, and the backup systems were failing. If it was not fixed soon, the whole section would lose atmosphere. Yuna arrived to find Kellis and 3 other Vithani technicians standing around the valve. They looked worried. "The release bracket is bent," Kellis said. "We cannot get proper grip to turn it. We have called for specialized tools, but they will take an hour to arrive." Yuna looked at the bracket. It was thick metal, bent at an awkward angle. She could see the problem clearly. "May I try something?" she asked. Kellis hesitated. "What do you intend to do?" "I think I can bend it back." The Vithani technicians exchanged looks. One of them made a small sound that might have been a laugh. Yuna stepped forward. She gripped the bracket with both hands. The metal was cold and solid. She took a breath, set her feet, and pushed. The metal groaned. Then it moved. Slowly, centimeter by centimeter, the bracket bent back into its proper shape. Yuna let go and wiped her hands on her uniform. There. Now you should be able to turn it. She looked up. The 4 Vithani were frozen. Their eyes were huge. Their feathers had puffed up in what Yuna had learned was a fear response. What? Yuna asked. Did I do something wrong? Kellis's voice came out as a whisper. You bent it, with your hands. Yes, it was not that thick. Maybe 4 centimeters? Nobody moved. Yuna suddenly felt very uncomfortable. I am sorry. Should I have waited for the tools? I just thought... No, Kelly said quickly. No, you fixed it. Thank you. You may return to your regular duties. Yuna nodded and left. Behind her, she heard the Vithani speaking in rapid, frightened voices. That night, she lay in her small quarters and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the way they had looked at her, like she was something dangerous, something alien. But she was just Yuna, just a normal engineer from a normal city on Earth. She had bent a piece of metal. Anyone could have done it, right? In the cafeteria the next day, she sat with Do-hwan again. The tables around them were still empty. They are scared of us, she said quietly. Do-hwan nodded. I know. Why? We have not done anything wrong. Do-hwan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I have been thinking about that for 2 years, and I think maybe they are scared of what we could do. Even if we never would. Yuna did not understand, but somewhere deep inside, a small question began to form. A question she had never thought to ask before. What exactly did the galaxy see when they looked at humans? 3 months passed on Station 12. Yuna learned the rhythms of her new life. She woke early. She fixed machines. She ate lunch with Do-hwan. She went to sleep in her small room. The aliens still avoided her, but she was getting used to it. A new human arrived on the station. Her name was Jiho, and she was a medic. She was young, maybe 24, with bright eyes and a quick smile. She had studied alien biology for years and was excited to finally work with other species. They are so fascinating, Jiho said during lunch on her 3rd day. Did you know that Vithani have 3 hearts? And Morellians can breathe both water and air? The diversity of life in this galaxy is incredible. Yuna smiled at her enthusiasm. Just do not expect them to be excited about you. Jiho's smile faltered. What do you mean? They are afraid of us. I do not know why, but they keep their distance. Jiho frowned. That is strange. I am a healer. Why would anyone be afraid of a healer? She found out soon enough. It happened on a regular Tuesday. Yuna was in her workshop when the alarm started. Red lights flashed. A voice announced emergency protocols for Cargo Bay 7. Yuna ran. When she arrived, she found chaos. A massive cargo loader had malfunctioned. Its mechanical arm had swung wildly and knocked over a stack of heavy crates. Beneath those crates, trapped and crying out in pain, was a Morellian worker. Morellians were soft-bodied beings. They had no bones, only flexible cartilage. Their skin was smooth and wet, like dolphins from Earth. They were gentle creatures who worked in water processing. This one was being crushed. Station security had arrived but could not help. The crates were too heavy to lift. They had called for cutting equipment, but it would take 20 minutes to arrive. He does not have 20 minutes, someone said. His internal pressure is failing. Yuna looked around desperately. Then she saw Do-hwan pushing through the crowd. His face was calm. His eyes were focused. He walked straight toward the pile of crates without hesitation. Everyone move back, he said. A security officer tried to stop him. Sir, you cannot... Do-hwan was already at the crates. He bent down, gripped the largest one, and lifted. The crate weighed 400 kilograms. Yuna knew this because she had moved these same crates with machines. No single person was supposed to lift them. It was physically impossible. Do-hwan lifted it anyway. His face turned red. The veins in his neck stood out. A sound escaped his throat, a grunt of pure effort. But he lifted the crate and threw it aside. Then he lifted the next one. And the next. Within a minute, the Morellian was free. Jiho rushed in immediately. Her hands moved with practiced skill as she checked vital signs and applied emergency treatment. "He is alive," Jiho announced. "Get me a medical transport, now." The Morellian was taken to the medical bay. He would survive. His family would thank the station doctors and never know how close he had come to death. But everyone else knew. They knew because they had seen it. A human, a single ordinary human, had lifted weight that should have required a machine. He had done it with his bare hands. He had done it like it was difficult, but not impossible. Do-hwan sat on a crate, breathing hard. Yuna brought him water. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Just tired. That was heavy." "Do-hwan, you lifted 400 kilograms. He looked at her with confusion. "It was an emergency. What else was I supposed to do? Wait for him to die?" Yuna had no answer. The footage spread across the station within hours. By the next day, it had reached other stations. By the end of the week, it was on every news channel in the Confederation. A human, lifting impossible weight to save a stranger. Do-hwan did not understand the attention. He refused interviews. He kept going to work. He kept eating lunch with Yuna and Jiho. "Anyone would have done it," he said when reporters tried to talk to him. "I was just closest." But that was not true, and everyone knew it. A Vitani could not have lifted those crates. Neither could a Morellian or a Thessi or any of the dozen other species on the station. Their bodies were not built for it. Their muscles were not dense enough. Their bones would have broken. Only a human could have done what Do-hwan did. Kellis called Yuna into his office the day after the incident. "Sit down," he said. His voice was strange, tight. Yuna sat. "I have been reviewing human biological data," Kellis said. "Your species profile in our database. Okay? It says that humans evolved on a high-gravity world, that your planet has extreme temperature ranges, dangerous predators, toxic plants, and violent weather. It says that humans can run for hours without stopping, that you can survive injuries that would kill most species, that your bones are dense and your muscles are remarkably strong." Yuna did not know what to say. Earth is not that dangerous. It is just normal to us. Kelly stared at her. "Your cargo handler lifted 400 kilograms yesterday. He was very motivated. It was an emergency. No other species on this station could have done that. Not even close." Yuna felt uncomfortable. We are just people, Supervisor. We are not monsters." Kellis was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I do not think you are monsters, Yuna. But I am beginning to think you do not understand what you are." Yuna left his office feeling strange, unsettled. She thought about Do-hwan lifting those crates. She thought about bending that metal bracket. She thought about all the times aliens had flinched away from her in corridors. Were humans really that different? She found Jiho in the medical bay, finishing her shift. "Do you think we are scary?" Yuna asked. Jiho laughed. "What? No, we are just normal." "But to them, we are not normal." Jiho's smile faded. She looked around at the medical bay, at the alien patients who watched them with careful eyes. "Maybe not," she admitted. "But that does not make us bad. We just have to show them who we really are." Yuna nodded. But deep down, she was starting to wonder, who were they really? And why did the answer feel so complicated? The Galactic Confederation Council met in an enormous chamber at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from over 200 species sat in floating platforms arranged in a great circle. At the center was a speaking floor where any representative could address the entire council. Today, the topic was humans. Ambassador Unji stood on a transport ship heading to the council chamber. She was 45 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and calm, steady eyes. She had spent 20 years as a diplomat. Her job was to make humanity look safe, trustworthy, normal. That job had never been harder than today. The footage from Station 12 had spread everywhere, a human lifting 400 kilograms. The council had demanded an emergency session. They wanted answers. Yunji reviewed her notes one more time. She knew what was coming. She had to be ready. The session began with Councillor Thren of the Vithani. He was old, his feathers white with age, but his voice was strong. "Fellow councillors," Thren said, "we must discuss the human question. For 15 years we have welcomed them into our confederation. We believed they were like us, perhaps a bit strange but fundamentally similar. We were wrong." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air. Human anatomy, muscle density charts, bone structure comparisons. Humans evolved on a world called Earth, Thren continued. It is a high-gravity planet with extreme conditions. The temperature ranges from frozen ice to burning desert. The atmosphere contains a corrosive gas called oxygen at levels that would poison most species. The planet is filled with predators, parasites, and toxic plants. The council watched in silence. And yet humans did not just survive. They conquered. They spread across every corner of their deadly world. They climbed mountains. They crossed oceans. They endured conditions that would kill any of us within hours. Thren pulled up new data. A human can run continuously for hours, not minutes. Hours. They call it persistence hunting. Their ancestors would chase prey until the prey literally died from exhaustion. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Their bones are 4 times denser than Vithani bones. Their muscles can generate force that our bodies cannot withstand. They heal from injuries that would be fatal to us. They can survive temperature extremes, radiation exposure, and physical trauma that should be impossible. Thren paused. His eyes swept across the chamber. And they do not know. They do not understand what they are. To them, this is all normal. That is what frightens me most. Yunji stood and requested permission to speak. Thren stepped aside. She walked to the center of the speaking floor. 200 species watched her. She could feel their fear. "Councillor Thren speaks the truth," Yunji began. "Humans are physically strong compared to most species here. Our planet was difficult. We adapted. But I want to explain something important." She took a breath. "We do not see ourselves as dangerous. When I was a child, I played sports with my friends. We ran and jumped, and sometimes we fell down and got hurt, but we got back up and kept playing. To us, this was just childhood." She looked at Thren. "I understand that our strength frightens you. But please understand, we grew up thinking we were weak. Earth has creatures far stronger than us. Bears, elephants, whales. We spent most of our history being afraid. We built walls and weapons because we felt vulnerable." A counselor from another species raised a tentacle. "You felt vulnerable? You?" "Yes. We had no claws, no armor, no venom. We had soft skin and flat teeth. Our children are helpless for years after birth. On Earth, we were not the strongest. We were just stubborn. We refused to give up." Thren stepped forward. "But here, in this galaxy, you are the strongest. Do you understand what that means?" Yunji was quiet for a moment. "I am beginning to," she said softly. The council debated for hours. Some species wanted humans expelled from the Confederation. Others argued for restrictions. A few defended humanity. In the end, they voted for observation protocols. Human citizens would not be restricted, but they would be monitored. Their activities would be tracked. Their strength would be measured. It was not punishment, the council said. It was precaution. Yoonji accepted the decision with grace. She had expected worse. On her journey back to Station 12, she thought about her childhood. She remembered hiking in the mountains with her father. She remembered swimming in cold rivers. She remembered falling from a tree and breaking her arm, then going back to climb the same tree a month later. Normal. All of it had felt so normal. But it was not normal. Not to the rest of the galaxy. When she arrived at Station 12, she met with Yuna, Do-won, and Jiho. They deserved to know what had happened. They are afraid of us, she told them, not because of anything we have done, but because of what we could do. Yuna looked down at her hands, the same hands that had bent metal like it was nothing. What do we do now? She asked. Yoonji sighed. We keep being ourselves. We keep being kind. We keep helping people. Eventually, they will see that strength does not make someone dangerous. How you use that strength is what matters. Do-hwan nodded slowly. I did not lift those crates to scare anyone. I lifted them to save someone. I know, Yoonji said, and that is exactly what they need to understand. But as Yuna walked back to her quarters that night, she could not stop thinking about what Thren had said. They do not know what they are. She looked at her reflection in a darkened window. Same face she had always had. Same eyes, same hands. But somehow everything felt different now. She was human. And for the first time in her life, she was starting to understand what that meant to everyone else. The question was, what would she do with that knowledge? 6 months after the council meeting, Station 12 had changed. The observation protocols were in place. Small drones followed human workers at a distance. Security checkpoints scanned them more carefully. Some aliens were more open now, curious about the strange species. Others had become hostile. A group called the Purists had grown powerful. They believed humans were too dangerous to live among civilized species. They wanted all humans expelled from Confederation space. Yuna tried to ignore the politics. She focused on her work. She had even made a friend, a young Vithani technician named Pili. Pili was different from the others. She was curious instead of afraid. Your hands, Pili said one day, watching Yuna work. They are so different from mine. Thicker, stronger. Yuna looked at her hands. I never really noticed before. Can I touch them? Yuna held out her hand. Pili's thin fingers brushed against her palm. The Vithani's touch was so light, so delicate. Amazing, Pili whispered. You could crush my hand without even trying, but you touch everything so gently. Yuna smiled. Why would I crush anything? I just want to fix things. This was the truth she wished everyone could understand. But not everyone wanted to understand. The attack came without warning. Yuna was in the cafeteria with Do-hwan and Jiho when the lights went out. Emergency red lighting flickered on. A voice came over the speakers. Not the station AI, but something else. Attention, Station 12. This station is now under the control of the Purity Movement. All humans are ordered to surrender immediately. If our demands are not met, we will begin executing hostages. The cafeteria erupted in panic. Aliens screamed and ran for the exits. Yuna grabbed Pili and pulled her under a table. Stay down, Yuna said. Stay quiet. Do-hwan's face had gone hard. How many of us are on the station? Maybe 20 humans, Jiho said, scattered across different sections. They will be hunting us, Do-hwan said. The station shook. Somewhere, something exploded. The terrorists were sealing sections, trapping everyone inside. Yuna's mind raced. She knew this station. She had crawled through every maintenance shaft and service tunnel for the past 9 months. I can move through the station, she said. The maintenance tunnels. They are too small for most species. The terrorists would not think to guard them. Those tunnels have no atmosphere in some sections, Jiho said. You would have to hold your breath for several minutes. Yuna nodded. I can do it. Peely stared at her. You can survive without air? For minutes? Humans can hold their breath for a while. It is not comfortable, but it is possible. This was apparently another thing that terrified other species. Yuna did not have time to think about it. I will find the other humans, she said. We need to coordinate. She kissed Peely on the forehead, a human gesture of comfort that made the Vithani's eyes go wide. And then she was gone. The tunnels were dark and cramped. Yuna crawled through spaces that would have trapped larger beings. She reached a section with no atmosphere and held her breath. Her lungs burned. Her vision started to blur. She kept crawling. 4 minutes and 12 seconds later, she gasped for air in a new section. She found 3 other humans hiding in a storage room. She found 2 more in engineering. She sent them all toward a central meeting point. Meanwhile, Do-Wan was fighting. 3 terrorists had found him protecting a group of alien children. They had weapons designed to hurt humans, electrical shock devices and chemical sprays. The first terrorist shocked him. Do-Wan screamed but did not fall. The second sprayed something in his face. His eyes burned. He could not see, but he could still hear, and he could still move. Do-Wan grabbed the first terrorist and threw him into a wall. The alien crumpled. He caught the second one by the arm and squeezed until the weapon dropped. The third one tried to run. Do-Wan caught him in 3 steps. When it was over, Do-Wan stood bleeding from a dozen wounds. His shirt was torn. Chemical burns marked his face. One of his ribs was cracked. He could feel it grinding when he breathed. But he was alive, and the children were safe. Are you okay? A small alien child asked, looking up at him. Do-Wan smiled through the pain. I am fine. Just a few scratches. Jiho worked for 18 hours straight. She treated wounded aliens in the medical bay. She performed surgery with terrorists banging on the doors. She did not stop to eat or rest. How are you still standing? Another medic asked her. Humans can go a long time without sleep, Jiho said. We call it adrenaline. It is useful in emergencies. When Confederation forces finally breached the station, they found something unexpected. The terrorists had been stopped. Not by the security teams, not by military units, by 20 humans who had refused to give up. Yuna had crawled through impossible spaces. Do-Wan had fought through injuries that should have killed him. Jiho had worked without rest for almost a full day. The others had done similar things, acts of endurance and strength that left the rescue teams speechless. Yuna found Peely in the cafeteria, still hiding under the table where she had left her. It is over, Yuna said. You are safe. Peely looked at her. Yuna was covered in dust and grime. She had cuts on her arms from the tunnels. She was exhausted. You came back, Peely whispered. Of course I came back. Why would I not? Peely started to cry. The tears were different from human tears. Thicker, more blue, but the emotion was the same. I thought you were scary, Peely admitted. When I first heard about humans, I thought you were monsters. But you are not monsters. You are... I do not have a word for it. Yuna sat down next to her. Everything hurt. She wanted to sleep for a week. We are just people, she said. We break and we bleed and we get scared. We just do not stop, even when we probably should. Peely leaned against her. Yuna put an arm around the small Vithani. Outside, the station slowly came back to life. Lights flickered on. Communications restored. Help arrived. And across the Confederation, the footage spread once again. Humans, bleeding, burning, breaking, and never, ever giving up. 1 year had passed since the attack on Station 12. Everything was different now. The purity movement had collapsed. After the footage spread across the galaxy, Footage of humans saving aliens, protecting children, fighting through impossible pain. Public opinion had shifted. The terrorists had tried to prove that humans were dangerous monsters. Instead, they had shown the galaxy something else entirely. Humans were not predators. They were protectors. Yuna stood in Supervisor Kellis's office. The old Vithani looked at her with eyes that no longer held fear. He held a document in his thin fingers. "The Confederation has approved a new program," Kellis said. "Mixed species emergency response teams. They want humans to lead them." Yuna blinked. "Lead them? Your endurance, your strength, your ability to remain calm in crisis. These things make you ideal for emergency response." He paused. "They are offering you command of the first team." Yuna did not know what to say. She was just an engineer. She fixed pipes and valves. She was nobody special. "I am not a leader," she said. Kellis made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You crawled through maintenance tunnels with no air to save this station. You organized scattered humans into an effective resistance. You held this station together when everything was falling apart." He looked at her directly. "You are already a leader, Yuna. You just do not realize it." There it was again. That phrase. You do not realize. Yuna thought about it for a long time. She talked to Do-Wan, who had fully healed from his injuries. She talked to Jiho, who had become the most requested medic on the station. She talked to Pili, who had become her closest friend. In the end, she accepted. The same week, Ambassador Yunji received an unusual request. Counselor Thren wanted a private meeting. Yunji agreed, though she was not sure what to expect. Thren had been one of the loudest voices calling for human restrictions. Had something changed? They met in a small conference room with a view of the stars. Thren looked older than Yunji remembered. Tired, perhaps, but his eyes were clear. "I owe you an apology," Thren said. Yunji raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For being afraid. For letting that fear guide my judgment." He paused. "I watched the footage from Station 12. All of it, many times." "And?" Thren was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "There was one moment that I could not stop thinking about. Your engineer, Yuna, after the attack was over, after she had crawled through spaces with no air, after she had helped save the entire station." She apologized. Yunji frowned. Apologized? For what? She had broken a door. To get through to a sealed section, she had torn a door off its frame. After everything was over, she found a maintenance worker and apologized for the damage. She was worried about the repair costs. Yunji smiled despite herself. "That sounds like Yuna." "That is when I understood," Thren said. "The scariest thing about humans is not your strength. It is not your endurance. It is not your ability to survive things that would kill us." He leaned forward. "The scariest thing about humans is that you do not know you have this strength. You move through the universe thinking you are small, you are kind because it never occurs to you that you could be cruel. You protect others because it never enters your mind that you could simply dominate them instead." He sat back. "You could conquer this galaxy if you wanted to, but you do not want to. You want to fix pipes and heal wounds and save children. You want to make friends and share food and tell jokes. You have the power of monsters and the hearts of children." Yunji did not know how to respond. "I was afraid of the wrong thing," Thren continued. "I was afraid of what humans could do. I should have paid attention to what humans choose to do." He stood and bowed, a Vithani gesture of deep respect. "I am no longer afraid, Ambassador. I am grateful. Grateful that humanity found us. Because I think this galaxy needs you." 3 weeks later, Yuna stood in a shuttle bay with her new team. There were 12 of them, 4 humans, 8 aliens of various species. They wore matching uniforms, They had trained together for weeks. Peely was there too. She had volunteered for the team immediately. "Are you sure about this?" Yuna had asked her. "It will be dangerous." "I know," Peely had said, "but I watched you during the attack. I watched you break yourself to save others. I want to learn how to be that brave." Now they were heading to their first mission. A mining colony on a distant moon was collapsing. Hundreds of workers were trapped. It would be dangerous. People might die. Yuna looked at her team. Humans and aliens together. No fear, no distance. Just people ready to help other people. A young alien recruit, a Thessi with green scales and nervous eyes, approached her. "Commander Yuna," he said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Is it true? What they say about humans? That you are really as strong as the stories say?" Yuna thought about the question. She thought about bending metal and lifting crates and crawling through airless tunnels. She thought about Do-Wan fighting through pain that should have stopped him. She thought about Jiho working without rest for 18 hours. And she thought about how none of it had felt special at the time. It had just felt necessary. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I think humans are just stubborn. We do not like giving up, even when we probably should." The recruit looked at her with wonder. The shuttle doors closed. The engines hummed to life. Through the window, Station 12 grew smaller. Yuna took a deep breath. Somewhere out there, people needed help. People who did not care what species saved them. They just needed someone who would not give up. She smiled. That she could do. The shuttle launched into the stars, carrying its small crew toward danger, toward people who needed them, toward a future that finally made sense. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy because of their muscles or their bones. They were the strongest because they never stopped trying, because they cared about strangers, because they would break themselves to save someone else. They just did not realize it, and somehow that made all the difference.